Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for coming around and checking us out. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most common alerts. I think there's 19 of them that you see inside of your Tesla. And we're going to go into a deep dive on some of them. Some we'll just skim over and talk about what they mean. Now, some of these are going to be relevant to most of you, and some of these are going to be maybe not so relevant to some of you. Some of them were eliminated with some of the alerts, but people have cars of all different software updates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a list of all of them in the description of this video, and they're going to all be timestamped. You can jump to whichever one you want to see. Now, the thing about alerts is different people experience alerts differently than others, and different cars are more sensitive than other cars. You could have two of the exact same cars on the same software update back to back on a road. One could be getting a pillar camera alert and the other one not. So just understand that just because you're experiencing something doesn't mean someone else is experiencing it, and vice versa. But the point of this video is to go through and talk about what they mean and what are some of the solutions for them, if any, just so you have a little bit more understanding of what you're looking at. And before we get into this, let's talk about a couple definitions. First of all, Autosteer. Every single Tesla comes with Autosteer. It's just simply where you keep your car in the lane. The car is going to steer for you to keep you between the two road lines. It is different than Navigate and Autopilot, which will take exits and on-ramps for you and change lanes around slower moving vehicles. And it's different than full self-drive. Also in the video, you will hear me talk about remote diagnostic as a resolution to some of these things. That just means Tesla is, from Tesla Service Center, going to remote connect to your car and going to run a diagnostic on your car remotely to determine if there is a hardware issue. So you'll hear that term used today. That's what it means. So that part aside, let's get into number one. Apply slight steering force to the steering wheel. This is probably the most common of all the different alerts you're going to see up on your screen. If you've ever used Autopilot or Autosteer in any form, you've seen this alert. And this alert pops up when there's been a certain period of time passed when you haven't applied any kind of torque to the wheel. And here's how it works. The car senses torque or turning force on the wheel. If Autopilot moves the wheel and your hand resists, or like most of us, you just have your hand resting on the wheel applying torque at all times, the car will sense it. If the car does not sense torque for about 30 seconds, you'll get a message on the screen. You'll also get an audible alert, a huge red steering wheel on your screen, and finally, after a minute of you not engaging, the car will disengage Autopilot for the rest of that drive. It will then slow down to a complete stop and turn on its emergency flashers. So that's like the extreme of it if after you get this alert, you don't do anything. Now, it's not always 30 seconds. Sometimes it's as early as 5 seconds or 15 seconds. It just depends on the situation of the car. It's also at different speeds. If you're going slower, you get it more closer to the 30 seconds. If you're going at a faster speed, you may see yourself getting the alert a lot sooner and more frequently. Also, if the car is going through something like an intersection, it may have you tap it, even if you only put torque on the wheel maybe 10 seconds earlier, just to make sure that it knows you're watching and you're okay with what the car is doing. As of right now, we are all required to keep our hands on the wheel, and so this is one of the ways that Tesla is watching to make sure we're doing this. I found that rest of my hand is a little bit off center from the very bottom of the steering wheel, applies enough torque to keep this alert mostly gone. In the future, we could see the cabin camera above the rearview mirror keeping track of what we're doing instead of applying torque to the wheel, but that's quite a ways out. So the next one is Autopilot unavailable for the rest of the drive, and this one happens when the alert above that we just discussed has run its full course. This means you have gotten multiple apply slight steering force to steering wheel alerts, and you've either missed them or more likely you just ignored them. You must be paying attention to avoid this penalty. Once you have gotten this alert, you'll not be able to use any part of the Autopilot functions until you've completed that drive. And so it's not hard to fix, it just is kind of annoying. What you have to do is you have to pull over to the side of the road, somewhere safe, put the car into park to signify you've completed that drive, then put it back in drive again, and you'll be able to, go back to what you're doing using all the functionality once again. The next one is blind spot detection limited, camera visibility reduced. So this alert applies to your side repeater cameras. So when you go to change lanes or make a turn, that's when you're often going to see this alert if there's an issue. On the surface, the reason for this alert is that your cameras are simply blocked. It can mean you got lots of dirt on your camera or a bunch of bug guts and something splashed all over them, and you just simply need to wipe it off. However, many have reported not having washed their car for months, their cars being filthy with bug guts everywhere all over their cameras, and have never gotten this issue. Most do agree, however, that if you have ice all over your car and it's blocking the camera, that is a main reason for getting this alert. However, there are a lot of people getting this alert that do not have that. Many people also reported after getting new software updates that they started getting the alert a lot more or a lot less. So it's definitely related to software in a lot of cases. There's a lot of thinking that maybe the neural net got upgraded and now it's more sensitive, detecting things a little more. So if something's on the camera lens that maybe before it wasn't detecting, now it's detecting it because of that update, but it's hard to really say. So what is the fix for this? The most obvious answer is to make sure your cameras are clean all the time. Anytime you get into your car, it's always good to wipe your cameras off. And if it is something this simple, you'll be able to avoid a lot of these warnings just from doing that. However, though, if they are cleaning, you're still getting this alert, then it's probably time to schedule a service with your local service center. What they can do is do a remote diagnostic, like we talked about earlier, to see if there's an actual hardware issue with your cameras. Many people reported that there was an issue and that Tesla sent out a technician to the house, replaced the camera, and it fixed it. So if you're having these issues and wiping it off and doing just regular maintenance isn't solving it, schedule a remote diagnostics, and if there is a hardware issue there, in that case, they'll send someone out to replace it if you're still in the warranty. Next up is Sentry Mode event report. Now, if you have Sentry Mode turned on and you've parked it somewhere in an airport or somewhere with a heavy traffic, you could see thousands of different events have been recorded onto your car. Now, you have to have Sentry Mode turned on, like I said, and you need to have a hard drive in some way connected to your car, so it's some place for this to actually record it to. But if you do, when you get this alert, you can tap right on that alert and it's going to pull up your viewer to go and watch all the different videos to see who it was that walked past your car that you didn't like. I will warn you though that using Sentry Mode in a very populated area like this, when you're getting that many different recordings, will use up your hard drive card very fast, as well as it will use your battery and drain it down a little bit quicker. So if you're going to leave your car in an airport for like a week, for example, you may not want to leave Sentry Mode on. It could take hours for you to sit there and film through all the different people walking past your car to see who it was that actually keyed your car. Although if that happened, you'd probably be glad for it. Next up is the take control immediately alert vehicle departing lane. There's a lot of different things that can actually trigger the take control immediately or take over immediately. All of it has to do with your safety and the car wanting you to be in control in that situation. For example, the vehicle departing lane alert is simply saying that you're about to cross over, you're drifting over one of the lines, and it wants you to take control and get yourself back in the line. But this can also be triggered when other people are drifting into your lane. The car is using its path detection to see, hey, this car is now threatening us. I don't feel confident I can do this without the driver. So driver, take control and navigate the situation, then, re-engage me after. And this, you don't even have to be in Autopilot to have this pop up. You could be just driving normally, and in the case of like drifting over a side lane or something like that, it could pop up. This is one of those alerts that save people when they've been falling asleep. This alert often triggers going over things like train tracks and bridges, maybe some windy corners that have not very visible road lines. Basically, it is a breakdown of the Autopilot's confidence in what it's doing. And there are some more extreme versions of this that are coming up. Next up is the stopping for traffic control in a certain number of feet. Now, this alert is found on vehicles that have navigated Autopilot. You've upgraded to that system, but you're not on the full self-drive beta. And if you haven't paid for Navigate and Autopilot where it's not engaged, this is not going to happen for you. So the car is actually stopping for you at this traffic light, and then you will need to then press on the accelerator for it to then continue once the light turns green again. And of course, you could also use a gear stop continue as well if you wanted. But either way, you got to tell the car once it stops at a traffic signal to continue on. But this alert triggers when you're coming up to a stop sign or stop light, and it's letting you know it's going to be stopping in that certain number of feet. But the thing I'll say about this is that it's not always exactly accurate. It sometimes does miss certain signals, but it has gotten very, very good over the last, updates, or I'd say the last 12 months. Very few people reporting it missing, stoplights especially. Stop signs can be a little more tricky as it's trying to find them. But on the full self-drive version, I almost never have issue ever of it missing traffic control, so it certainly has the ability to not miss them. Now, the car uses its cameras as well as its mapping to figure out where all these different stop lines are. So as you guys can have probably noticed, it is getting better and better. But as always, like any of these things, just never rely on the car for any of this stuff and just be ready to always interact if needed. Next up is Autopilot camera unavailable. Features may be restored on next drive. Now, this is something that I have gotten a lot in the wintertime. And the first thing to remember here is that it's easy to feel like you did something. And I know right now on the full self-drive system, people are all worried about getting strikes and all that. This is not one of those things. You don't cause this. It's not something you've done wrong. This is another alert that pops up because of an outside circumstance. It could be weather blaring at your car, snow falling, hard rainstorms. In some way, the car is not completely confident in the environment it's driving in. Now, the frustrating thing about a lot of these kind of alerts is that a lot of people report there was nothing going on. It was just a simple driving day, no weather going on, cameras were clean, all of that, and they're still getting these kind of alerts. And like with any of these alerts that have to do with camera obstruction, not allowing autopilot and all these things, if you've done all the right steps, you've wiped off your cameras, there's no weather that is in any way making it a hindrance to the car. There's nothing that's causing the car to lose confidence. Just a simple road and you're getting these alerts consistently. One of the things you can always do is just power off the car, let the car go to sleep, and get back in. If it persists on it, then what you're going to want to do is schedule again that Tesla remote diagnostic through the Tesla app. I have videos on how to do that if you guys have never done that yet, and they can tell if it's a hardware issue. And some of these ones are easily fixed by them just you just requesting them to send you a service update or a software update, maybe the most recent one or the one you currently have, depending on what they will send you. And a lot of people reported that fixed the issue as well. And one thing I'll also mention here is you can also go in as part of your, before you contact, service department, as you can go in and calibrate all of your cameras. And you can try that with really any of these issues you're having that involve cameras. You just go into your, I believe it's your service tab, and you just go to calibrate cameras and run that through. From what I could find, most people said they did not solve the problems, but there are a few people that did comment that they did solve it. So it's something you could definitely try before you schedule that service appointment. And they may even ask you when you schedule it if you've already tried that. So definitely add that to the list of things you can try. Next up, Autopilot safety and convenience features are unavailable. And there's a version of this that says camera alignment is required. Again, when you get this alert, there's something about the camera or the radar sensors that it's just simply not happy. And a lot of people often report getting this alert with the car not rendering stop signs and traffic control and speed limit signs. Now, in all the research I read about this alert, because I've gotten this before myself, but for me, it just simply went away, I think, on a software update. But a lot of people that isn't the case. So the people that took it into the service station, here's what they said was actually the resolution for that. So they took it in, and Tesla had to replace the second generation front radar sensor. It's the one that's under the passenger side, and that actually fixed the problem. So as you know, there are radar on the bottom of the car that works for the adaptive cruise control. And so if those sensors go bad, then it's going to have an issue with the safety features. You're going to get that alert, and oftentimes that means a replacement. And again, this is another situation where you can call Tesla, have them do remote diagnostics, and they could also send you a software update or re-push it to you. And a lot of people also reported that solving it. So you always want to go through these routes. If these alerts pop up and they're not disappearing fairly quickly, go back to the whole steps of report it, diagnostics, and then technician come out if required. Next up is the cabin camera is covered or blinded. Now, if the cabin camera is blinded or covered, then Autopilot will not engage. And if you cover it while using any of the full self-drive functionality or anything, it's going to disengage itself. These are actually disclosures that we have to sign in the full self-drive program, and I believe it's for the others, Navigate and Autopilot as well, that we will allow the car to watch us to make sure that we are paying attention while using these features. I read a lot of different reports of people saying that there's nothing covering their camera. They haven't put a little cover over it. A lot of people did that for a while because they're like, I don't want Tesla spying on me, but Tesla isn't spying on you. Tesla's only using the camera to detect you being in the car and paying attention. They don't send that information back to Tesla. But people have reported that this is happening to them a lot at night. It's just too dark and the cameras, I guess, can't see them. And so some of the fixes that people have reported were just turn your screen brightness up or turn on your ambient lighting. And if all of that stuff is still not working, or if you just don't like having to do that, then of course, go through those same steps, report it to Tesla, have them do a hardware check or whatever, and just see what they suggest. But in all the reports I read, all of them, Tesla simply pushing a software update fixed this issue. All right, next up, and this is one you see a lot, and that is the Autopilot temporarily unavailable. And you see this one anytime you try to engage Autopilot, but you can't. And the reason why that is the case is the little steering wheel is not visible in the upper left corner, meaning it is not ready to engage Autopilot. This is not something you see often on the full self-drive version, but on regular Autopilot Autosteer trying to engage it, you will see this a lot because it requires a lot more things to be in play to engage. And you definitely see it on full self-drive too, but mostly you see it on regular Autopilot or Navigate and Autopilot. So why do you see it? Well, the car needs to see two visible lines, a fog line and a center line, in order to engage or maybe not even a line per se, but some way to identify the side of the road. So trying to do it in the middle of an intersection would obviously bring up that alert. Or if you're on an on-ramp where you got merges coming on there and it doesn't have clear defined roads, it won't do that as well. You get the point. So if you're getting this alert, just drive a little bit further, wait till you got some clear road lines, engage it, and then you're just fine. And again, once it's engaged, you're about to continue on, but it's the actual engaging of it that causes this alert to come up if you're not in the right situation. Next up is close console lid gently. Honestly, I didn't even know this was an alert. I didn't even know this was a thing, but apparently if you open and close the console lid too quickly, then you will get this alert to, I guess, say, hey, take care of the car. Don't beat up your car so aggressively. There's a little, it's kind of a push release thing on there. And some people think maybe there's like a sensor in there, but I'm pretty sure it's just, again, that camera, that rear view passenger camera that we talked about above the rear mirror that is just detecting that, and if it sees too much action there, then this alert can pop up. Next up is corrective steering applied for your safety, potential collision detected. This message appears when your car detects a potential collision, and it does some sort of steering to help you avoid that. It could be you drifting towards another car or the car drifting towards you. But either way, this is the lane departure avoidance system at work taking care of you. Next up is driving visualization temporarily degraded. Feature may be restored on next drive. Now you're probably noticing that some of these alerts sound a lot like others, and they do. There seems to be a little bit of crossover on when these apply. However, there's not a lot of clarity on specifically what makes one pop up over another. We try to do our best though, based upon reading blogs and what other people have said about them, to kind of compile what these actually mean and when they appear. But this one is pretty well accepted that it is associated with bad weather. Every time I have gotten this alert, I've been driving on full self-drive and I've had it being really bad raining, or I've been on like compact snow and ice and it's been snowing out. When I've been in those situations is when I've only ever seen this specific alert. I've also had people say that they got this alert during heavy fog times. However, I've never had any alerts because of fog, even here in Seattle where we get thick fog at times. But again, different cars are more sensitive than others. And so that's another time you could potentially see this. So the fix. So people have reported that simply wiping off the cameras has helped with this. However, a lot of people say that doesn't make any difference, because if you're in like a rainstorm or a snowstorm, for example, as soon as you start moving again, there's going to get more onto the camera. This is almost like a pre-alert before it fully disengages you. So when you see this alert, you kind of know that a full disengagement saying, hey, it's just not able to do it right now, take the wheel, is coming. And of course, there's been a few cases where it's been perfectly clear weather. There's been nothing on their cameras, clean cameras and all that, where they're getting this alert. And if that's the case and it does not go away with powering off your car, letting it go to sleep and trying it again, then it's good to start with the remote diagnostics from Tesla again and go that way. Next up is left door pillow camera blocked or blinded, clean camera, or wait for it to regain visibility. Now some of these, like this one, are very self-explanatory, which is nice. But again, this one can be caused by bad weather. This could be caused by very bright sun glare. This is one of those ones that kind of resolves itself by turning a corner or driving into a different environment, going through the woods rather than being in an open field. Sometimes when the pavement is really, really wet and the sun is out, the reflection off of that can cause this. Basically, the car is saying, I don't have confidence to change lanes or to steer this car because I don't have full visibility for whatever reason. And some cars are just more sensitive than others. I don't know what else to say about it. I have people around my area that tell me I get this all the time with the sun out here, and I almost never get this in my car. So it's just sort of a case-by-case thing. Now the next one is mobile connector or adapter over temperature limit. Now this is not talking about the climate around the car being too cold or too hot for charging. This is talking about the connector itself. Now there's not a lot on this and not a lot of people have gotten this alert, but if you do get this alert, turn off your breaker instantly and call an electrician. The people that I could find that reported getting this message say when they went under their garage, they felt a slight burning smell, which is like, yikes. And their cable connected to their Tesla, the charging cable, had burn spots, kind of flat spots in it. And the few causes that I can find on this were failing receptacles or one or more improper torque lugs. Maybe there was some insulation or something in those. I don't even know any of the words I just said to you, but some electricians were kind of talking about this, and that's what they said. But the main part is, if you go out to your garage and you're getting an overheat thing on your car, there's something wrong with the wiring, call somebody and turn off your breaker. That is a massive fire hazard. Next, pay attention to the road. Now, this one's pretty self-explanatory. You weren't paying attention to the road, or at least that's what the cameras thought. This all has to do with the internal camera above your rearview mirror watching you and seeing you do something you're not supposed to be doing. It's kind of like you're getting a little slap on your hand saying behave. Now, when this first came out a year ago or so, I often got this by picking up my phone real quick for some reason, or I used to get it by tapping on my settings too long or navigating, somehow being on my front Tesla screen too long, eyes focused down there, hand over there, I would get this message. You can get this message fairly easily, but be careful. You get this one too many times and you can get a strike. This is one of those things that was added to the Tesla to appease all the regulators that are saying that people driving on autopilot pay less attention than people that are not on autopilot, which is probably true. So this is one way for Tesla to, kind of meet them in the middle, watch over us, make sure we're doing the right thing inside of the cars. And of course, I'll just mention, don't fool yourself. If you get this alert and you're like, well, I hate that this camera's watching me, I'm going to cover it, put a piece of tape over that camera or something, go ahead, you just won't be able to use the autopilot functions. Next up, 12-volt battery must be replaced soon. It's no secret that Tesla has all kinds of technology monitoring all the different parts of the car to make sure everything is running smoothly and healthily. I mean, shoot, they can diagnose it remotely, as we've been talking about. So when your 12-volt battery is needing replacement, you're gonna know about it. And the funny thing is, a lot of people don't even know that you have a 12-volt battery inside of your car. It's located in the frunk, underneath that piece of plastic right up against your firewall. A lot of people think that all the different electronics in the car are actually just powered by the main battery of the Tesla on the bottom of the car that actually powers your car and the motors. But the 12-volt battery has a very key role on all the small motors and other functionalities, such as lights, power windows, wiper motors, power liftgate, washer fluid pumps, ABS electronics, and more. So obviously make sure that if you need to replace this thing, you get it replaced. Now, last up is cruise control not available. So now this alert pops up when the radar sensor located in the front bumper on the passenger side is no longer able to function. So the only time I've ever gotten this alert is when I've been driving in like over the pass or something and it's really cold and the snow is piling up on the front of my car and it's just not able to melt it fast enough. You can just simply go out there and wipe it off, and then until it builds up again, you should, have fixed that issue. Also, if you're going too slow or too fast, that can also cause your adaptive cruise control to no longer, be engaged. All cars have a limit to what they can be. I'm not 100% sure on the Teslas because I know that there was just a video some guy put out on Navigate and Autopilot. He got it to go up to, he recorded over 90 miles an hour. I know it used to be like 85, but I know that you can do it faster now. I don't know how slow it is. I couldn't really find anything on that. But that could be a potential other reason. But more than likely, if you're getting that alert, it's because of something blocking that sensor. Now, I know there are other alerts out there. There's quite a few that can come up on the Tesla, and you can find a lot of these in the manual right on your Tesla screen. You can kind of go through and read these. But I wanted to go through some of these and talk about some of other people's experience because a lot of these things have confusion around them. Why am I getting them? And for a lot of these, people are still not quite decided on when they appear and what you do about them. But the main thing is, if you've done everything to keep your car in good condition, you've kept the cameras clean, you've taken care of the maintenance on the cameras and the sensors and all that, which means, again, just make sure they're not being blocked, and you're still getting these issues and there's no weather conditions around, just go through the step, pulling out your Tesla app, put in a service order, have them do a remote diagnostic on your car. If there's a hardware issue, schedule the time for them to come out and replace that camera or sensor. That should resolve most of your problems. And if not, maybe having them push a software update should resolve a lot of these. But if you guys found this helpful in any way, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what alerts you guys have gotten, what some of the fixes were that you got. Also, if you've gotten alerts that we didn't talk about today, put them down there as well as the solution to them. Or maybe you're trying to figure out what the solution is, comment and let other people answer some of those questions for you. But again, this channel is all about education and learning your Tesla, mastering your Tesla. So if you guys are here and you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.